So, Satanism is absolutely not what most people believe it is. They have a belief about it, but they do not have any direct experiential knowledge of it, nor do most people have any correct, even book knowledge or secondhand knowledge of it. They just believe what they've been told, and they believe what they've seen in Hollywood depictions and variations of Satanism. But they don't know what Satanism really is in the real world as a worldwide religion of the elite ruling class that is really ruling over all of society. This is the religion of the master class, of the ruling class. That's what it really is. Okay? And it's the methodology and psychology which allows them to keep rulership of the planet, to keep ruling over other people who are dwelling in abject ignorance. So Satanism is actually an ancient occult religion. It is a religion based on occult ideologies and occult knowledge. Satanism is an ancient occult religion comprised of diverse, interconnected networks of worldwide adherents. Now, let me just break down that sentence for a moment, okay? It's an occult religion, meaning what comprises it is hidden knowledge about how the human psyche and the laws of the universe function that they don't want people to know, because that knowledge differential maintains their power differential. It is comprised of a diverse network of people. Everybody thinks it's all just rich white men. Wrong. Incorrect. It's not just all rich white men. It is every single ostensible background of people, every single ostensible religious background, every race, every male and female sexes, even every social strata and income. It's not just the rich. It's not just men. It's young and old alike. It's men and women alike. It's white people, black people, brown people, Asian people, Native American. You name the culture, race, ostensible religion, background, gender, it does not matter. There are people involved from every single walk of life. Okay? That's a big misconception of the people in the ruling class, is that they're all just rich or they're all just white. Untrue. Absolutely untrue. And it's not just ruled from one place. There are members from every single country on the earth involved in this network, because every country has to be controlled. They have their tentacles throughout all of society. And it's interconnected networks. It's not one group. Everybody wants to go, oh, it's just the Freemasons. It's just the Rosicrucians. It's just the Jesuits. It's just the Zionists. No, wrong, incorrect. You don't know what you're talking about, if that's how you think about this. And, people don't want to hear that. They want to think their worldview is correct. They want to think that they have it figured out. They want to think that they figured it out. One group controls it all. Well, let me tell you something. If any one group controls it all, it's the high-level religious organizations that are ultimately controlling the spirituality of the masses of people, of billions of people. So it's the religious organizations that ostensibly run organized religions. The Vatican, high-level rabbis in the Jewish religion, high-level imams in the Islamic religion. You want to know who the real high-level dark occult Satanists and Luciferians are? They operate enthroned behind the scenes of ostensible world religion. That's who they are. They're not just behind the banking institution. They're behind that as well, and behind politics, which we're going to talk a lot about. But folks, let me tell you something. They operate through religion, most of all and foremost, because it's all religion. Everything that holds humanity back is religion. The very word religion means to hold back, to thwart from forward progress. And this is a religion, and it is comprised of a diverse, interconnected network of worldwide adherents. It's not just run out of one place. It's worldwide. At its ideological core, now listen to what I'm saying here. Really focus on the words I'm using. I structure this and choose the words very carefully and specifically. At its ideological core, the heart of this religion, this is the main principle or tenet by which it operates. This religion, Satanism, postulates that knowledge of the human psyche and knowledge of the laws of the universe should be occulted, meaning hidden from the general population and held only by a few human beings. That's them. That's the master class or the master race that they consider themselves. It is much more accurate to perceive Satanists and dark occultists in general as ancient psychologists who hold and wield hidden information in ways which exploit those who remain ignorant of it. So I always give the analogy, imagine if a master psychologist found out that a young man around 19 years old was having an affair with his wife, with his trophy wife, who wasn't interested in him anymore, but wanted a young buck and started having an affair with an attractive 19-year-old male. If the very, very advanced, powerful psychologist who knows everything there is to know about the mind and how it can be manipulated wanted to exact revenge on this person and try to befriend him, not even letting on that he knew about the relationship, he could try to find out where he lived, go, pretend to befriend him. And then what kind of a number could that psychologist do psychologically on that individual that he hates because of his involvement with his wife, when that individual knows nothing about the master methods of psychology that psychologist would wield upon him? So therefore, he has no protection against those mental and psychological techniques. I would suggest that he could devastate that individual if he were to get into his confidence. And that is what Satanism is, folks. It's ancient psychology wielded for the purpose of controlling the masses who know nothing about how their own psyche actually works. Through the power differential they gain by way of manipulating those who remain in ignorance of this critical hidden knowledge. So again, the knowledge differential that they have with the general population is easily convertible to a power differential in the real world. See, knowledge isn't power itself. Knowledge applied becomes power in the world. And these ancient psychologists have applied that knowledge and converted it to a power differential with others. They've become the powerful, and other people have been at their mercy and remained largely powerless in the world because they don't know what the ruling class master psychologists know. That's what Satanism is. So through the power differential they've gained through this knowledge differential, this small minority who are quote unquote in the know wish to rule the masses of humanity permanently and effectively become God on earth. That is their ultimate goal. Their ultimate goal is to put the general human population into abject bondage, into slavery, and become God on earth, their version of ruling hell, because they would rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. The quote from John Milton's Paradise Lost, which is an analogy or an allegory about this ruling class dynamic. So they see earth as a prison because natural law is in place, and they don't want it to be. They don't want to be bound by the rules of morality. They want to be able to do whatever they want, no matter who it hurts. They want to define what right and wrong is instead of having right and wrong existing as inherent qualities of nature, objectively. No, they don't want that. They want relativism, relative right and wrong, that they define, that they arbitrarily decide for themselves, at their whim and at their preference. So that's their goal. They want to be God on earth. That's what this is all about. That's what this whole slavery society is about. A small group of people that wants to be God. But see, they give us that ideology, which we're going to talk about. It is important to understand that contrary to popular belief, and this is one that I continually fight people on, they don't want to hear it. They want to believe they're right. It doesn't matter what somebody from the inside has said. They've heard it. They believe it. It doesn't matter how in error they are. They're in negative knowledge about this. And I keep trying to explain it to people, and people want to call me a show for explaining how this ideology really works. Okay? But I'm going to give you the straight shit and tell you how it really is. Contrary to popular belief, which is much easier for people to accept, the overwhelmingly vast majority of Satanists do not, quote unquote, worship an externalized deity known as Satan in the Christian tradition. Satanism is not about the veneration and worship of the Christian devil, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I don't know how many people I've said that to, and that somehow disqualifies me as being a source of accurate information, because they've talked to their pastor or their priest or congregation in their church, and Satanism's about worshiping the devil, you know, and nothing will dissuade them from that. And it's a kindergarten worldview of how things really work in the real world. It's a nursery school worldview. Forget kindergarten. It's nursery school shit. Okay? These people, if they worship anything, they worship themselves. Because they see themselves as God. God, the devil, Satan, everything. Nature. They see themselves as the creator, that they'll make everything in their likeness and image. That's how runaway their ego is. Okay? So forget the even concept of worship in this religion. It's about putting the ego on the pedestal, and the ego will become God, if we're being accurate. See, people always talk nonsense because they haven't been involved from a first-hand experiential perspective. And so they just want to talk about what they believe it is instead of what it really is from a first-hand experiential point of view. So they don't really worship Satan. Now, I'm not saying some of them don't look at it as an actual entity or a force in nature that they try to align themselves to. Some do. But let me tell you something, folks. Overwhelmingly, that is not really part of the worldview of most Satanists. Most Satanists see Satan as the ego, the self, etc. That's it. So, instead, they see Satanism as an ideological way of being in the world. And they view the ego-driven self as the quote-unquote God of their religion. That is absolutely the case and is absolutely accurate to the extent that I understand how Satanism is structured from being a priest within its ranks. So then people will always ask, well, if they don't worship Satan, and if it's all about the ego, and if it's all about the self becoming God on earth, then why do they use the trappings and symbolism of the Christian devil in the religion, and why do they call it Satanism? Why call it Satanism? Why name it after the Christian devil? So I'm going to explain that in this slide. The symbolism and trappings of the Christian devil or Satan in the Christian religion are used in modern Satanism. And let me tell you something, folks. Satanism is just the name for it in the modern day, since Christianity used the Christian devil in their iconography, okay, and in their allegories. It was not called Satanism from time immemorial. It was referred to as many other names. Most people, it was never really called a name. That's why in this religion, they don't really, at the highest levels, even refer to it as Satanism. They call it the old religion because it's so old, no one knows really when it originated. It was really been here since humanity has been on this planet. So they call it the old religion or the ancient religion. That's all. The high-ranking Satanists don't even call it Satanism themselves. The most popular name referred to the ideology of Satanism, by which the tenets are operating, which we're going to talk about next, the tenets of this religion, or the main ideological points, worldviews, and ways of thinking, okay? That's called a tenet, T-E-N-E-T, tenet, okay? We're going to go over those next. But those who adhere to the tenets of this religion at the highest levels don't call it Satanism. They call it the old religion. The old religion is the most popular name or variant of what it is called within their own ranks. They don't have a name for their cult, okay? They don't call it the Illuminati. They don't call it, high-ranking Freemasonry. They don't call it high-ranking Satanism or even Luciferianism, okay? There's no name for their cult, for their worldwide network of satanic ideology. So this is the worldwide cult that operates with actually no name to refer to it as. And truly, no one's really admitted to it. If you really want to be honest, okay, you're either born into it or you're not. All the people who are operating who are not really actual bloodline members of this worldwide ancient cult are just tools to be used for the agenda and thrown away when they're not necessary anymore. They'll throw the non-truly interconnected bloodline, the non-bloodline members who are just, rank and file members, they'll throw them under the bus at the earliest sign of any kind of trouble. Okay? So all the people who think, oh, I've made it to the big club, flashing the Illuminati eye out there at people that they think represents the Illuminati. Okay, that's not what they call themselves. It's not even an accurate representation of what they are, because it means illuminated, and these people are nothing close to illuminated. They're not spiritually illuminated at all. Oh, they're illuminated into dark knowledge, but that doesn't mean that one is truly spiritually awakened or illuminated. So I hate using the term Illuminati to refer to them. They don't use that term, and they don't call themselves anything. They don't even call themselves Satanists at higher levels. Lower levels, they use the term Satanism, but when you get up into the higher ranks and higher ranking members of these organizations, it is a cult without a name. Okay? And the ideology is just referred to as the old ways or the old religion. That's it. So they use these trappings and symbols of the Christian devil for two reasons. Two main reasons. The first main reason that they use this symbology of the Christian devil is to try to make outsiders see the real ideology of Satanism as just another quaint religious belief that is based upon traditional Christian belief systems. And it's brilliant. That's a brilliant thing. This way you don't think of it as something separate from Christianity, which is why whenever I bring up the term Satanism to people and they have absolutely no fucking idea of what it really means, the first thing they say to me is, oh, that's just another variant of Christianity. They're just taking the Christianity, inverting it and worshiping the devil and calling that Satanism, and I don't believe in any of that bullshit, so it doesn't affect me. So who cares? It's meaningless. I don't care. That's the number one thing that I get when I say the word Satanism publicly. And when I try to explain to them it is not that, they don't want to hear it, because they've made up their mind it is what they believe it is, and they're attached to that negative knowledge, attached to an erroneous belief that they think is true. And they have absolutely no fucking idea what they're talking about at all. Not even a little bit, boys and girls. And there's no dissuading them. There's no turning them aside. They know. They're certain that they know. And they're a bunch of jackasses who have their head up their ass and don't know what they're fucking talking about even a little bit. And then when I try to explain that and I get nuts because they're telling me that my personal experience isn't real and isn't accurate. You don't know where I've been. You don't know what I've seen. Trust me, you don't. Okay? It's like going up to somebody who's been in a war and saying, you weren't fucking there. You have no idea what it was like in that battle. They'd crack your jaw loose if you went up to their face and said something like that, and rightfully so, if they've been through an experience like that, and then you're trying to tell them that they're full of shit and they haven't been through it. You don't know what I know. You don't know what I've seen. You don't know where I've been. You don't know the people I've been in rooms with. You don't know the depth of evil I've witnessed and realize it doesn't even scratch the fucking surface. And then people want to tell me they know more about it than I do. You don't know shit. But it's brilliant. Their strategy is actually brilliant. It's genius. Because they have a lot of geniuses in their ranks. Who can see patterns. I don't usually even like to use the word, and people want to say, oh, I'm a genius. My IQ, the last time my IQ was tested, I tested at 147 IQ, which is genius level. But so what? Who cares? What does that mean? That means that you're good at identifying patterns and solving puzzles and, doing intellectual things with your mind. So what? That's not a measure of holistic intelligence. That's a measure of intellect. It shouldn't be called an intelligence quotient. It should be called an intellect quotient. But let me tell you something, folks. These people have genius intellect, genius level intellect. No doubt about it. I've seen it. I've witnessed it firsthand. And their strategy is actually very brilliant. Because they've convinced people that they're just a lower level version. They're worshiping the Christian devil. So they take the symbolism of that and they apply it to their ancient religion. And then they get people thinking, oh, see, it's just an inversion of Christianity. That's all it is. And they just worship the Christian devil. And then people just put it down, never look into it again, and go, oh, that's just a bunch of nonsense bullshit that crazy people believe in that are just as crazy as people who believe in organized Christianity. And they have no idea what it really is. So that's the first reason that they use these symbols and trappings. The second reason is to associate the actual ideology that they apply in everyday life to the adversarial dynamic within nature. They want to associate their worldview, their way of being in the world, their overarching ideology to the adversarial dynamic within nature, which is referred to in the occult world as the force of involution. We're going to talk about the two major occult forces that are at work in the universe on the show today: the force of evolution and the force of involution. Involution is the force which counteracts evolution and wants to stagnate life and consciousness. And we'll get into that in the next few slides. So they want to associate their worldview and their ideology with involution, the occult force that works against life, because this is a big death cult, as we're going to talk about. One of the other things that they refer to it as sometimes is the order of death. I have heard high-ranking Satanism referred to as the order of death. Okay? It has been called that, and of course, I have referred to it, and other researchers have called it the cult of the Black Sun. Okay, so you can call it these other things, but they're just labels. The ideology is what's ultimately important, defined by the tenets. So, involution is the force which opposes true evolution in consciousness. The word Satan itself comes from the Hebrew word shaitan, meaning adversary or opposer. Satanism is ultimately about being opposed or an adversary to the true order of natural law. Natural law is the Creator's laws governing moral consequence that this adversarial force always wants to work against and counteract the laws of moral consequence in the universe. So therefore, they align themselves with the perfect representative force, Shaitan, from the Hebrew tradition. The opposer, the adversary, the one that counteracts true evolution and natural law, or in other words, the involutionary or satanic force, the one who opposes God's law. Okay? It's a perfect allegorical and symbolic representation